we have to ask the question, right? Suppose we do something non-ethical from a Buddhist point of view. From a secular point of view, if you do something non-ethical, there is no way of undoing it, right? You have already created something. Undoing it meaning you can undo it by later not doing it. That's the only way of undoing it, right? But from a Buddhist point of view, if you do something unethical, right? If you do something unethical, suppose you are not supposed to kill, and you kill something. You have already done a bad action, and you have already created a cause for you to suffer. Now we must ask the question, we have created the cause for us to suffer, but is there a way for us that the effect does not arise, even though we have already created the cause? We have indulged in the bad action, right? We must ask the question, what should I do if I have done bad deeds? Is there a way to remedy them? Like, suppose you have cut yourself, right? You have cut yourself, and is there a way to apply medicine and like heal it, so that if I don't do anything, then it may get infected, right? It may get infected and I would get more worse effects from it. So is there a way, I'm not talking from a secular point of view, now I'm talking from a Buddhist point of view, is there a way to remedy that bad action so that I don't have to experience the effect? So actually there is, because we have to keep in mind of the impermanence part, right? Everything impermanent or impermanence of things exist because there is cause and effect. And we can also go the other way around. Cause and effect exists because there is impermanence. Meaning, if you are able to delete the cause, the effect won't arise. That's one thing. That's one thing. Because of the impermanence part, we are able to dispel bad things and dispel our bad emotions and and become enlightened, and we are able to not experience the bad effects from it, right? Because of the impermanence part. Now, if you do nothing after you have done the bad deed, if you do nothing and just stay like that, stay as if you don't care, then the effect will arise. If the conditions are there, then the effects will arise. But if you do something about it, the effects, you may not have to experience the full bad effects of that cause. So there's that thing. So in the second session, I think I was talking a little about 4 powers, right? The 4 powers. These 4 powers are the best ways for you to dispel the bad deeds. It's said that even though you cannot fully like dispel the bad deeds, you can reduce the effects of it. Reduce the effects. If you, for killing, if you had to go for have a fruitional effect of getting a short lifespan, the effects of that can be reduced to just having a headache, or you just having some cold, like that. So what are the 4 powers? You must ask. The four powers are the power of eradication, the power of applying remedies, the power of turning away from faults, the power of foundation, right? These are the four powers. If you apply them in your daily practice, like suppose, let's say all of your family are Buddhists, right? If you all of your family are Buddhists, or even if you are a Buddhist, if you just give like 10 to 15 minutes each day, then we are reducing the cause of our suffering. We are reducing our bad experiences that we may have to experience at a later stage of time. These four powers are supposed to be best ways to remedy yourself if you have already done bad deeds. So you don't have to be discouraged that I have killed, I have lied, I have gossiped. Of course, you may gossip, you may lie, you may steal. It's best if you don't do this. It's best if you don't do this. But if you do it, of course, because we are too indulged and we are too practiced in this doing bad deeds, we indulge in them regularly, right? So what must I do so that I don't have to experience the effects of this? You must practice the four powers, which only takes like I think around 10 to 15 minutes usually, if you just practice them. So I'll be talking about each one of them. So it will just in the daily time, you usually give 7 to 8 hours maybe. I don't know how much you work, but in the usual, we give 7 to 8 hours a day for useless work, like not useless, for this life's work, right? To gain money, right? So we do that. So we must try to give 5 to 10 minutes of time to practice these four powers, right? So what are the four powers? So there are many different, in the text, I don't think I have to talk about it, but I'll just say a little. In the text, there are many, what do we say? The structure of four powers. Sometimes they have said the power of foundation is the last, and power of eradication is the first. But for me, when I think about it, I think the power of foundation should be first. So I'll be talking from the way I think, and I try to, even though I don't practice regularly, I try to practice. I'll be talking from that point of view. So for me, the first is the power of foundation. What is power of foundation? The fourth power of foundation, the power is actually in the Lamrim text, I think it's the fourth power, but I'm doing it as a first power. For me, individually, that feels like the, what do we say, right way, or that feels more beneficial to me. So it depends on the individual also, right? So it's basically going into refuge to the three jewels, right? And cultivating the spirit of enlightenment. So what are the three jewels? It's the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. You taking refuge in them. That is one of the ways, one of the powers. Even if you don't know the powers, I'll just tell you the way that you usually do it. First, you take refuge in the three jewels, right? You take refuge in the three jewels and have a promise, like a promise in your heart, that I will follow all of your teachings. I'll follow all of the ways that you have showed me, which is refrain in short, to put it in short, refrain or abstain from doing bad deeds and indulge in good deeds. That's the short. So first you must think like this: I take refuge in the three jewels, not just by saying, but by thinking from the bottom of your heart. Now I'll go more in depth. Why must you take refuge in the three jewels? I'll go more in depth later. But first think like that. After doing that, how do and follow all their teachings. But in their teachings there is a lot of good karma and bad karma, right? Refrain from doing bad karma, but we have not actually refrained from doing bad karma. We have done bad karma, right? So for us, it's important to be guilty, not get consumed by the guilt, but be guilty. Like, why, asking ourselves, why did I do this bad deed? Just so that I can get a small bit of attention, right? We may do a bad deed just to get someone's attention. So we did that. So suppose for lying, we may lie about ourselves, like I do this, I do that, just to get attention. So that is one thing. And now that you have taken refuge in the three jewels, visualize all of the Buddhas and Dharmas being in front of you as a witness of your guilt. As a witness of your guilt. Even if you can't visualize all of the Buddhas, you can just visualize Sakyamuni Buddha, which is our times Buddha, right? And if you can, then if you have the capacity to visualize more, then you can visualize more, like the Vajrasattva and every Bodhisattva there is. So visualize them as your witness and think like this: I confess the bad deeds that I have committed and let others commit, and admire others' bad deeds. We admire others' bad deeds, right? So I confess that I have done all of this, and me, because I don't know the law of the, I don't know fully about the law of the cause and effect of karma. I have done these bad deeds, and I'm guilty of committing these deeds, have a guilt, right? Now, after having that guilt, there are many types of guilt. Actually, you can just have, through the time that I am born till now, I have done bad deeds, not respecting the teachings of Dharma that Buddha has given us. Through ignorance, I have done this type of deeds, and I confess to you from the bottom of your heart. You must have that feeling. And after doing that, after having that type of feeling, then now you must have the promise. Okay, I have already finished doing this. I have already done this type of bad deed. Now, from the bottom of my heart, I promise that I have committed this deed from ignorance, but from now, I promise that I would not do it. You must think like that. Even though your promise may be broken, right? Even if you make a promise, it may be broken, because our way of thinking, our mindfulness, and checking our actions are not good. So we may break the promise, right? Unknowingly, even because our mindfulness and whether to look whether we are committing the good karma or bad karma are not good, we may commit the bad deeds again. So it may feel like a lie that we are promising, but at that very point of time when you are practicing this, it's very important that you have a what do we say, strong belief of that I won't do, even though at a later stage of time, through your ignorance, to our own ignorance, to our not being practice of mindfulness, we may commit the bad deeds again, even then. But at that point of time, we must have that strong belief that I would not commit from now on. We must have that strong conviction. Do we call it conviction? Yeah, strong conviction that I would not do that. Okay? So, now basically I have told you the 3 powers without saying their names. So the first thing is take refuge in the 3 jewels and have a belief that you will follow their teachings. And after that, second, visualize all of the Dharma and the Sangha and the enlightened ones in front of you as a witness, and you confessing to them about your guilt that you have done from the beginning of time till now through ignorance, right? And after that, make a promise, like I have done that, but from now on I won't do it. So that type of promise. So that's that. So we have already talked about the power of foundation, which is taking refuge in the 3 jewels, and the power of power of eradication, which is you feeling guilty, right? And third is the power of turning away from faults, meaning you making a promise that you will never commit a bad deed. That's, if you practice every day like that for 5 to 10 minutes, then at a certain point of time, because you have practiced the guilt part very good, right? When you are about to commit something, I made a promise, I can't do that. You will have even though you may not have a strong, as a super practiced mind, but there will be something stopping you from doing it. So just give 5 to 10 minutes of your time to do this. Then the power of applying remedies come, right? The power of applying remedies, there are many different ways, like for us is usually going to pujas, right? To great protector pujas, great guru pujas and all. That's one of the way to apply remedies. And you doing recitations, you reciting the mantras and practicing emptiness, practicing bodhisattva, bodhicitta, and these are the types that is called the power of applying remedies, which is a little bit hard depending on. So the power of applying remedies is following teachings of Buddha and performing good deeds and reforming from bad deeds. And it's like this. For a small type of, illness, like headache or cough and cold, we have to follow the doctor's prescription, what they say, right? For a small illness like that. So the illness that we have, the illness of desire, the illness of ignorance, the illness of anger, and so on, these are big illnesses. So the illnesses that we have, to get rid of these illnesses, even if we cannot get rid of it fully, to even get rid of a small part of it, we must follow the one who has the one who is the greatest doctor of these illnesses, the one who is a specialist of these illnesses, which is the Buddha himself, and what he has taught, right? So we must follow them, and the power of applying remedies is basically us practicing what the Buddha has said while doing pujas and all. We are reciting his teachings, his way of thinking, and of course there's like tantric way of teaching, which is a more complicated one. So these are like the way to apply our remedies. So it's basically doing good karmas and refraining from bad karmas, right? So in your everyday life, try to give this much. Will it take 5 minutes to 10 minutes? I think almost 10 minutes, right? First take refuge in the 3 jewels, then visualize the bodhisattvas in the front of you as a witness to your guilt, and if it's possible, you can remember what bad you have done in the day, if it's possible to remember. Even if it's not possible for you to remember every bit of that, you can think of it in a general term. The bad deeds I have done from the beginning of time, from the time I was born till now. If it's specific, it's much more better, but if you can't, then think of it in a general way, and I am guilty of this. I confess to you that I'm guilty of this, and make a promise. I have done this deed, but now that I have done this deed, from now on, I won't do this deed. After that, you go into prostrating and practicing emptiness, going into pujas. That's the power of applying remedies. So basically, I have given you the 4 powers, like how to apply them. It's very important that you give your 10 to 5 minutes to just think of it at night, if it's possible. If you are not very tired, you don't have to just stay in a posture or like that. You just have to think about it and feel guilty, not just say what I have told you, okay? Just feel, you must have the feeling of it. So if you want to go more in depth into how to do, if you want to do perfectly, that means you have to go into Shantideva's, the way of Bodhisattva, right? Way of Bodhisattva. From verse 27, verse 27, I think, verse 2nd chapter, Confessions, and verse number 27, the 4 power starts, right? 4 power starts from verse number 27 till verse number 46, I think. That's the way of Bodhisattva's verse. It starts from there. So it's very important that you do that. And in that Shantideva's text, it's much more easier if you have something to refer to, right? So in that text, from verse number 27, it actually starts from how must you think when this is happening, how much you think when the first power or second power is happening. So that is the thing that you must do. And if you practice this, even though you may not be able to fully eradicate, fully dispel the effects of the bad karmas that you have done, you are reducing it so that you don't have to experience it in a high level, right? You don't experience it so much. Or if suppose you have to experience the effect of the bad karma for 1 month, then you are reducing it so that you can experience it just for one day. Or that depends on your how you perform the 4 powers. It depends on your strength of your what do we say, conviction, promise, and how you perform this all. But even if you don't perform perfectly, you are just reducing the time span that you have to experience the bad effects of the bad karmas. You are reducing the time span. And if you do it perfectly, you may just get away with a headache. You may just get away with a headache. You just have to experience just a small migraine. So it may just be that. So actually, from here, we can also go to one of the practices of Kadam masters, which is said, when you get sick, or when you get, I don't know the exact verse, but I'll just tell you the meaning of it. When you get sick, or when you are in a bad time, when you are experiencing a bad time, when nothing is going your way, think of it as your bad karma's experiences. You don't have to experience the bad effects of the bad karma in the hell realms or the hungry ghost realm. That it is, you are using up the bad karma's effects in this small experience that you are having. Suppose you have a migraine. So we usually, when we have migraine, we do, I'm having this migraine. Why am I having this migraine? Instead of doing that, we can think in our usual life that, okay, I'm having this migraine and it's because of the bad karmas that I have done. But I'm very lucky that I just, I'm not lucky to have a migraine, but I'm lucky that I experience the effect of the bad karma right now rather than later. So this is one of the practices that Kadam masters used to do. If you practice Bodhisattva's way, then it goes to more, it expands into more living beings. What the Bodhisattvas, that's the first way which I talked about right now, is you thinking about yourself, that I don't have to experience this. But Bodhisattvas, what they do is, the pain that I experience right now, may no living being experience this pain. May all of their pain be experienced by me right now. So that's the Bodhisattva's way of thinking. But first one was just a general way of thinking. So these are the types of practices that you can apply if you are getting so depressed that nothing is going your way and you are having a bad time. That's the time when you can apply this type of practices, right? So actually there is a story of like, when there, I think it was one of the great practitioners, right? There was one great practitioner and he saw somebody else suffering, and it's called Tonge, but he was so caught up in the compassion, and told, practice this, getting all the suffering of yours to me. So the other person was suffering from a leg getting swollen, right? And the practitioners, when the practitioner practiced that, his swollen leg came here, not as came here, but my leg, suppose I am the practitioner and he's the one with the swollen leg. When the great practitioner practiced that, his swollen leg became less and he got healed, and I got a swollen leg. The practitioner got a swollen leg. But even though he got a swollen leg, It was just for like 1-2 minutes, right? He didn't have to experience it that much. So, in a way, Bodhisattva's ways are much more expandable. If you can't practice that much, you can just practice the, what do we say, shorter version or smaller version of that. Just that by experiencing this, may I not have to, I'm very lucky to not experience this as a more bad experience than this, compared to the bad experience of you in the other realms, right? So this is very important, that it's one of the Kadam's way of practicing. Whichever thing is not going to your way, you change it to your practice. Suppose you are having a bad time of work, right? Suppose your boss is shouting at you. Your boss is shouting at you and you're not having a great time at work. Then you can apply this practice. Okay, the suffering that I'm experiencing today is reducing my suffering that I have to experience later. So that's one of the ways of Kadam, which they say, they made the bad times their own practice. I don't know if that's the exact term. Even the bad times, they apply to their practice. They apply to their practice. So if you think like that, that may help a little. That may help you get on with the scolding of your boss, right? So that's one way how you can integrate your practice in your daily life, in your workplace. So these are the things that we can do. So how to practice in your work life? We can practice at any time. The thing is that we must have a trained mind. So how does the trained mind come? If we start practicing 5 minutes a day, if slowly it becomes a type of habit, right? It becomes not being like a habit, like that's the usual. I have to do it usually, just for the sake of like a type of habit, right? Not being the habit, but like a practice habit. So it's very important that we do that. So we commit a lot of sins as we are not very well versed in the workings of karma, and we don't know all the bad actions, we don't know all the good actions, we don't know how to control the situation. We are ignorant. Because of our ignorance and all, we commit a lot of sins. So the best way, of course, if you are a great practitioner, if you practice emptiness and all, then the sins may get reduced, right? But because for me, and I don't know about you all, whether you all are great practitioners or just a beginner. So as a beginner like me, the 4 powers are the best way for you to reduce your suffering. So we commit countless sins. Countless. Even in one day, if we count how many mental bad actions that we have got, how many physical bad actions that we have done. Sometimes we may do it unknowingly, right? So to reduce the effects of that, we must try to give 10 to 15 minutes or even 5 minutes that we can practice the 4 powers that can, in each day if you practice, that can reduce your bad experiences a lot. And even if you practice, you can apply your practice when you are having a bad time. That's the main part that you should take away from today's session. Okay, so at the first we talk about the power of foundation, right? Why must we take refuge? As a Buddhist, one of the most important and the basic thing is for you to have refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. We call them the three jewels. As a Buddhist, it's one of the main things for you to have. So we may ask the question, why must we take refuge, right? Why must we take refuge in Buddha? What has he done? What has it done to us that we take refuge in him? What has the Dharma done to us that we take refuge in him? What has the Sangha done to us that we take refuge in him? The answer is very simple. When the doctor heals you of an illness, when the doctor gives you something that cares you of heals you from an illness, we say, thank you, doctor, right? And we trust that doctor and trust what he says, and we give money to that doctor, right? So actually it's the same concept. Buddha is healing our illness, the illness of suffering that we have. Buddha is healing that. So the basic answer for the questions that we may ask is that Buddha has shown us the way to happiness without taking money from us. So that's the basic answer. It's the simple answer, simplest answer that you can get. Right? We must take refuge in him because he has shown the way to attain the ultimate happiness. Even if we can't attain the ultimate happiness, he has shown us the way to attain level-wise attainment of happiness. So that's why we must take refuge in him. And Buddha is so confident. Buddha is so confident that he has said, do not follow my teachings just because I have said them, but analyze as you would analyze whether the gold is a pure gold or not, and follow me if it's logical, if what I say is logical, if you think what I say is logical. So that in a way shows Buddha's confidence of what he has said is logical. So that's why we must take refuge in the Buddha, we must take refuge in the Dharma, and we must take refuge in the Sangha. The Buddha, we can regard him as a teacher, right? We can regard him as a teacher who is showing us the way, who is showing us the path. And the Dharma is the path, right? Dharma is the path to happiness, path for the ultimate happiness, level-wise happiness. Dharma is the path to that. Sangha is a community, right? Someone who is helping you to attain that type of ultimate happiness. So basically you can say, if you do it in an analogy type, Buddha, if you go to a school, Buddha is the teacher, Sangha is the classmates that you have, and Dharma is what the teacher is teaching, which is the path to knowledge. So in an analogy wise, you can just think of them like that. But taking refuge, how do we take refuge, right? Are you taking refuge by just saying, I'm taking refuge? No, you are not taking refuge by just saying you are taking refuge. First, if you are more analytical, you can analyze whether the Buddha has said this true or... But for me, I think Buddha is super... Whether you analyze his text or not, you won't find any mistakes on him, right? So that is one of the reasons why we must take refuge. And how do we take refuge? Because we are afraid, we must be afraid of the sufferings. afraid, not in a sense that so afraid that you get too caught up in it, but afraid of suffering. And we must have the faith that Buddha has shown it's the way. Even though you don't have faith right now, you can analyze his texts, whether that what he says are true or not, right? And gain faith in him. So these are the two main causes for you to take refuge. We are afraid of suffering, we want happiness, and actually nobody has shown us the way to happiness, right? So he has shown us the way to happiness. That's one of the reasons why we must take the refuge and practice dharma, and in a community type, be good friends with the community and practice dharma together with them, as we say. Because if you practice alone, you may have questions, right? You may have questions that you cannot ask to the teacher, but with your classmates, you are able to ask them better. Ask them like you are friends. You can share with them what you cannot share with others. So you can think of the three jewels like that. So also you can think of the Buddha as the teacher. And so I'll go through this later, but we can regard our own gurus as Buddha, right? So from here we can talk about guru devotion, but I won't go much into that. We'll talk about it later. So the basic things that I talk in summary today, I talked about ethics. I talked about ethics and how it's important for our survival. Ethics is very important for our survival, whether we live as a society or as a human being. It's very important. I gave you the example of doctor being ethical or non-ethical, and the medical pharmaceuticals being ethical or non-ethical, right? So these are just examples, and fruit products. And it's very important for you to try to explain to your family and friends about this ethics, right? How important it is. Then if there are somebody you can reason with, of course they will slowly start to understand if they are not ethical. And for your children and you like that, we can teach them from a small time, right? We can teach them. It's very important. And the second was, what, from a Buddhist point of view, what can I do if I have done a bad deed? The remedy for not having to experience so much of bad experience, have so much of a bad experience, is through the four powers. And the four powers, just as a summary, first you take refuge in the three jewels and visualize all of the Buddhas or even Sakyamuni Buddha in front of you, and feel as if you are talking to him and confessing to him all your guilts. The way that you could talk is, from the beginning of time to till now, through my ignorance, I have committed many sins. I'm guilty of that. Not just by saying, but feeling guilty from the bottom of your heart. If you really, really want to say why you must feel guilty, in the Shantideva's text of second chapter, of Bodhisattva's Way, second chapter, Confessions, it's very clear that why you must feel guilty, right? You must feel guilty simply because you want happiness, right? You want happiness in the next life, you want happiness in this life. So that's one of the things. And after visualizing, have a promise that you won't commit the sins again. Then indulge in good acts, like practicing emptiness and going to reciting mantras and etc. like that, and practicing bodhicitta and indulging in that. So these are the 4 powers, right? It's simple if you think about it. It's just 10 minutes of your time. If you practice this every 10 minutes a day, at a certain point of 10 minutes in 1 year, 365 days. So 10 into 365 is like you have practice 4 powers into 365 days. So that's a long time, right? So you must practice this every day. And even if you are having a bad time, you can apply that bad time into your practice, thinking, I have this bad time, but my experience in this bad time, may I not experience it's my bad karma's bad effect which I'm experiencing now. Because I'm experiencing it now, I do not have to experience the more powerful effects of it. So you can think of it, that's one of the ways Kada Master's practice, you can apply it in your daily life. So this is the summary that is there. So I'll stop here for the questions. Is there any questions?